Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Wicked Art. It's Wicked here. It's time for our Monday art lesson, and I thought today we would study some graffiti. How to do graffiti and add a little style to your artwork if that's the kind of thing that you're into. So, when it comes to graffiti, it's all about the line work, right? It's making it hyper stylized, and so we're just going to kind of doodle some ways to do things. So, like for example, if I wanted to draw a skull, right? How can I draw this in a way that is going to exude the style of graffiti and really help bring it out in a way that is going to look cool? So, having a basic understanding of what something looks like is going to be helpful. But then taking that and exaggerating what it is that you're trying to create, right? So, taking certain spots of, like, let's say the eyes, and just really stretching and changing the way things look to kind of stylize it in a way that is going to make it look cool, right? So obviously adding like the ridge of the eye, right? Defining it more to give it more of a personality so that it's not just a basic skull, it's more of a kind of cartoony style to it. So kind of stretching it out and then making adjustments from there, right? So we can kind of make it look like the eye is kind of squinting a little bit. So now I can extend my skull out some more. Maybe we could, stretch the eye a little bit, give it more of a curve. And again, it's all about that line work in there. And then also kind of creating kind of a like a human aspect to it with, like, like here, like kind of establishing like an ear hole, even though that's not something we would see on the skull. It's something that can be accentuated and brought into the image. And then we can come to places like here and kind of draw our nose. And just kind of establish that there. And so, like, once we get down here to the eye, we can make some adjustments. And kind of take that down in. And again, just kind of add in a more cartoony feature to it. add a little bit underneath here. Okay, so now let me just kind of clean this up a little bit. And then we can kind of sharpen this down some. And we could add in things like teeth. Like that. And then same thing, we want to kind of have that kind of look to it that, you know, gives it more of a human type look rather than just being a straight up skull. So now I can take it and I can start darkening, you know, specific areas. We can add things like crack and shape changes into the image, kind of take it out. And kind of take it around. Again, just at variable parts. And just bringing that design down. And continue adding the different detailed shapes that we're going to get up in here. Okay, really refining our line work and just thickening up different areas. Once we have what it is that we're looking for, we can start cleaning up different aspects of it, just so it's not so sketchy. Oops, sorry. Okay, same thing here. We can kind of come down and just start refining our lines. Keeping the things that we want, getting rid of some of the sketchy areas. Again, just to kind of help clean it up some. And once we have those things defined, the key to any decent looking graffiti art is going to be, like I said, not just your line work, but certain areas that you kind of thicken up. And make stand out. Okay, so again, this is just for a basic skull. So once I have these things set up, first thing that I like to do anyway is just really define the overall like look of it. So like there's usually some really thick line work that goes around the outside of it. And again, this will make it kind of pop and stand off the page. And we can kind of thicken in some shadows where it's overlapping. And then again, you just kind of continue around. And thicken up those edges. Again, just so it stands out and pops off the page, right? So this, we're just focusing on the outside edge, but you'll also have some line work that you'll want to work on the inside parts of your picture. And we'll get to those in a second. So I'm just going to continue around and just really thicken up that outside edge. Now, if you wanted to, you could take a pen and just make it pop a little bit more. I'm just going to stick with a pencil today. Again, see how it's now it's like really just like off the page with the thickness that we're adding. Okay. Then it's going to be up to you on how much detail you want to add to a picture. But some things we can do to kind of make it stand out a little bit more, right? Let's talk about, our shadow. So like where there's an overlap right here, we'd want to thicken that up. Or around any spaces that have negative space or just exposure. And then what we can do is to kind of give an edge to the inside of the eye. We can really kind of thicken up the inside of the skull right here. So you can see how that's kind of giving it more of an edge, right? And then we would obviously want to do the same thing throughout here. So we're just going to thicken this up just a little bit right here on the inside eye. That's what we'll come through and do the same thing we did on the other side. And again, that'll just allow it to kind of pop out even more. Same thing here inside the nose, right? We want to give it some depth. So the way that we'll do that is we'll add in some shadow work here. Again, giving us a good bit of detail. And then we can do little things to help add some shape and form to it to just kind of make it stand out a little bit more. So just adding in these little tiny things to kind of give us grooves, shapes to our forms. And you can see how that kind of starts helping it stand out, right? Then you can come in and add in, just different line works that you think will help define your image a little bit more. Again, just to help kind of um, bring it to life. So you can see how that's starting to make the skull stand out, right? So now I could do the same thing here, where I come in and add that shadow to really kind of make it pop. And then again, just kind of add in whatever I think is going to help make it stand out. So like especially here where it's kind of rounding, I might want to thicken that up a little bit just to give it some more edge to it. And then here we can add in whatever bit of line work. Again, it's just going to kind of help make it pop off the page, right? So again, we could add in a little bit of line. So it's not just too overly, blank. You don't have to fill in every area, but it's enough to give us, an idea of what it is that we're looking to try to accomplish. So you're really, again, just kind of going for that stylized type look to your image, right? So the next thing we want to look at is um, what else can we do? So like for instance, like a lot of times when you see um, graffiti work, we have a lot of like spray paint can representation. So even doing something as simple as a cylinder, right? I can do that same kind of thing when forming the eyes. And then we can draw out like a mouth shape and build that in. So I could add in a few teeth lines and build that up, and then have that kind of come around. And have that face on there. We could probably add in one more kind of a curve to the wrinkle, just to show that the can is bending. And pull that back some, like that, and start building out different features like the rounded edge that would be on a spray paint can. Again, we can kind of take that out some more. Okay. Um, Adding this kind of like a hill type shape right here. And then getting that hole for the nozzle. Right, so I have a basic shape, but again, the thing that I want to focus on first is getting a lot of that shadow work and the thickening of the outside edge. And you can really thicken that up again just to make it kind of stand out against the grain. So we can kind of curve up into that bottom line. And again, we can keep this fairly thin. We don't have to do the inside lines thick so much. So as we bring that out, we can kind of round that. Right, so see how that's kind of giving me my shapes now. And then I can kind of round that out and then just thicken up this outside. Like that. Again, we can kind of put a slight bit of thickness right in here just to show that change in direction. Again, build it out and thicken up this little area where the nozzle comes out. And we'll build out the spray portion. Again, I can probably thicken the hole a little bit. Like that there. Again, we can go back to thickening outside of the spray can. And we'll have the other part add some shadow right here. To kind of thicken that up, but you'll see it's starting to bring it to life a little bit. So like here on the eye, we'll go ahead and add that shape, but what we can do is kind of over exaggerate with the paint can kind of looking angry. Like that, so just kind of adding in a little bit of line work. We can make an eye right here, and again we can kind of thicken up the outside line. Maybe add that little bit of detail right there, just to kind of give it some character. So we could put in like these little highlights on the eyes. And give him a pupil. Again, kind of get some line work in there. To really kind of give us the shapes we're looking for. Okay. So you can see how it's now starting to pop a little bit, right? So that's what we're working for, is just thickening certain areas to really make something stand out. And then at the same time finding different locations to add in some key art lines to kind of make it stand out a little bit more against the grain. Okay, so I'm gonna go finish thickening up this outside edge here. Again, to really make that kind of pop and stick out. Okay, so if my eye's over here on this way, I'm gonna want to do the same thing right through here. Then again, we can add in some kind of glare lines just to give a little bit of character and reflectivity. We can thicken up that edge there, as well as come in and give ourselves a pupil. Like that. Okay. Again, we can curve that eye out. Kind of thicken up that bottom edge. And take that out that way along to the eye. So again, we can really thicken up that outside edge, kind of clean up any sketchiness that you get as you go around. Okay, and then like right inside here with the mouth, kind of want this top portion to be pretty thin. Okay, I can come down here and we can add in a few kind of like gum line shapes, just to kind of make the teeth pop out a little bit more. And again, we can kind of curve this around to the mouth. Clean up any sketchiness we have right in there. Again, we can define those teeth a little bit better. So you can see how it's starting to become like a character, but those thick lines are really helping kind of fit that style of graffiti. We can really kind of round out these teeth along the bottom. And then again, continuing that kind of thickness. Around the outside of the spray can. And again, you can kind of round it off, and maybe this line is not so thick. But we can add, again, just some kind of line work here. To kind of help bring it out, give it kind of a metallic look. See how it's kind of giving it almost like an edge to that. And then it's up to you. Like, you could come in here and you could give it a tongue if you want to. Or you can just do like I'm doing. And you can just go ahead and just kind of fill it in. And just make it nice and black. And then obviously if you wanted to, you could have it kind of spraying out. Different things, but again, I'm more focused on trying to get certain areas to look more metallic. And now you have yourself like an overly stylized spray can, right? So again, the key thing is just really making sure that you're establishing those thick lines, being stylized, being creative, and not really trying to, hold it down to making it realistic. You're pushing the boundaries of what's considered normal. So like even things, so like we can do one more real quick here. But even things like if you wanted to do, animals, you could very quickly start finding ways to, make them more on the weird, almost alien side of things. Um, just like right here, just really having the eyelids is kind of standing out. Uh, kind of deciding what it is that you want. To focus on, whether it's a bird, um, how much of the feathers do you actually want to show? How much of the other eye are we going to see? and then kind of taking from there and deciding, what kind of personality this thing's going to have. Is it going to be silly, goofy, you know, like I can have the eyes like this, almost like a crescent moon, just so it gives the illusion of a glare. We can make him a special bird. Where he's not exactly, you know, normal looking. He's got something wrong with him. But again, your focus is going to be hitting up those outside areas of thickness. And then maybe every so often you can have a feather of some kind that comes out. So your things don't have to be the traditional. Your drawings don't have to be that traditional, like, oh, it's got to be a skull or a spray can or some cool guy standing there. You can still adapt and get that same kind of style going with something with animals too, like a bear, teddy bears, even. I mean, like, again, it can be whatever you want. You just have to learn to adapt the style to kind of suit the needs of what you're looking for. The key thing is, at least for me, is kind of finding a free flow to it, just kind of letting your imagination go. Maybe here we could have like a small feather kind of sticking out there. So again, just kind of really establishing what areas are going to have thickness to them, and really accentuating that line work, because that's the key, is the line work itself. And then just making it nice and clean when you're all done. So again, I'm keeping these lines on the outside really thick. And we can make some of these feathers have a little bit more curve to them. So again, certain areas we can work on to kind of give the illusion of, lines of, edges, and, different things, like if you want some feathers along the ridge side here. These are all things that you can look into and see, how they're going to affect the overall image that you're going for. Okay, so that's going to do it for today, our little art lesson on graffiti. Again, I hope you liked what you saw. Leave a comment, leave a like, let me know what you think. Let me know if you learned anything, and hey, share your work and your final results and things that you learned and studied. Go ahead and share those things with me on Twitter at WickedArt5. Other than that, thank you so much for stopping by. Thank you to all my subscribers. I really do appreciate you. You guys are my students. And until next time, remember to keep sketching, and I will see you in the next one. All right? Bye.